I'd hardly call the Payday Division 2 crossover a well-guarded secret, seeing as it was data mined about 2 months before official release, but it still took some by surprise as only the third major collaboration since Payday 3's launch, with 2 of the 3 being in partnership with Ubisoft and completely one-sided, bringing content only for the external game. If it wasn't for Jacket, who basically feels like a Payday property at this point, it would be 2 for 2 in terms of crossover content that fails to benefit fans purely of the Payday franchise. Which is obviously disappointing, but not entirely surprising. Payday 3's development is still evidently supported by a team far too small to pull off these ad hoc crossovers. They need that team's full focus to produce something worthwhile, as we saw with Jacket, and from what I hear, the cost of developing even masks in Payday 3 is extortionate, which was the go-to collab material back in Payday 2's heyday. Now, to present my position immediately, I would much rather see the Payday 3 team's time used for the real value adds at this stage, meaning major overhaul projects such as Skills 2.0, as well as new weapon and heist additions. Don't get me wrong, I'm not making excuses for anyone. It's a crying shame that the economic failure of Payday 3 has left us needing to compromise, but it'd be hard to argue that not at least prioritising the right thing. So rather than throwing shade at Payday 3's more than evident struggles in this video, I want more so to take a closer look at how the overarching Payday IP is being handled, starting with the elephant in the room. This is not a Payday 3 crossover. No one could argue that the skins for Rainbow Six Siege were anything other than Payday 3 themed, but here in the Division 2, this is very deliberately a Payday collab. Jiro and Sangres, 2 almost decade-old DLC characters from Payday 2 that have never even been mooted for Payday 3 as far as I'm aware, have just been added to a different game in 2025. Strange to imagine, even stranger to bear witness to those 2 old-timers who supposedly retired to Japan at the end of Payday 2, standing alongside Dallas and Chains, who were updated to their Payday 3 designs. It's a bit of a time paradox really, which speaks, I believe, for Starbreeze's plans with these characters moving forwards. Instead of allowing their original background characters to rot in a limbo of irrelevancy, from now on they're going to use them just as interchangeably as any core Payday 3 heister. They've likely given up on the possibility of transferring them all across to Payday 3, and as marketing for that title exclusively becomes less of a priority, why not showcase more of the breadth of what Payday as a franchise has to offer? Of course, it's just as likely that this event has been in the work for months, long before the changing of the guard, and Starbreeze actually had very little to do with this outcome. I'm mostly just using it as a representative example of how I see the series being handled moving forward. To be completely clear, I'm not saying they're giving up on Payday 3 here, I just believe their core focus now extends beyond it. Somewhere, likely from the highest C-suite level, a decision has been reached that it's Payday as an IP that needs to survive this fallow period, not necessarily Payday 3. This feeds into that all-important first quarterly report Q&A handled by Matt and Adolf a few months ago. All this talk of franchise expansion into further digital media, merchandising and IP partnerships is only cemented by these sorts of collabs. Sangres and Jiro are now back in the public view somewhat, so when the inevitable Boys in Japan graphic novel is published, it's not quite as out of left field as it might be otherwise. This is obviously a somewhat jokey conclusion on my part, but I wouldn't be entirely surprised if it was closer to the truth than it might initially appear. Which is why we're seeing this Payday 2 renaissance, albeit in a place as strange as the Division 2. Just look at the masks they're adding if you want further evidence. All of these are of Payday 2 origin, not least the character mask for Bonnie and Sydney. I also wonder if this is a big contributor to why they're so coy with the missing heisters' statuses. Jiro or Sangres might be a little less marketable if we found out Concord pancaked them with a Tokyo-bound bullet train in 2023, so why not fix them in time and cash in again and again on their excellent designs and fan popularity. This is precisely why I wouldn't be surprised if Payday 2 started to receive content updates again, with the diesel engine being the only obvious limiting factor I can see stopping them from going hog wild. To pull that off, they're going to need to fix a lot of very serious problems, not least the Akimbo hard crash that plagued my last challenge video, but I do believe it's the future of Payday new CEO AK is angling for. And who can blame him? It's a franchise with an incredibly loyal and passionate fanbase despite years of mistreatment, which has witnessed a bastion of holdout success within Payday 2, bolstered by bots or not. Any businessman, especially one with an extensive grasp of the gaming industry, will be furious at the limbo Payday's been left in and will be looking to right those wrongs. Which is why I truly believe Payday 2 is rapidly becoming a key focus again, returning to their list of in-development games after all. Payday 3 needn't suffer for this play to work either. Depending on its success, the PUBG crossover mode is currently harbouring dozens of devs intimately familiar with the franchise who could be rapidly retooled, and Project Baxter remains a bit of an enigma that could be anywhere from months to years away from being ready for sale. Given the appetite for a successful Payday title is likely greater than a generic co-op fantasy RPG, I wouldn't be surprised if that pendulum swung back in Payday's favour under this more Payday-centric leadership. Side notes, despite Baxter's apparent title getting leaked a few weeks back, I'm remaining a Backshots bandit for life. You can't change me. Anyway, at this stage, I think from Starbreeze's perspective, it's about having the foundations to eventually build and release a Payday 4 without being laughed out of the room. You might think the entire concept of Payday 4 is ridiculous after the third game has been out for less than 2 years, when Payday 2 made it to its 10th birthday, but trust me, it has to be on their minds. Looking at it economically, Payday 3 is unlikely to turn a workable profit anytime soon, and that's even taking into account its change of fortunes with 3 excellent consecutive updates in 2025. Full price sales are limited as it's at that highly discountable age, the player base is unlikely to grow transformationally, at least not enough to sell bucket loads of DLCs as they did with Payday 2, because the game is simply not as replayable by design, and development costs in Unreal remain much higher than they once were in Diesel. The game is now a lost leader, but still an exceptionally important one. It needs to exist and receive support for players to have any faith in the stickability of the entire series and receive those redemption headlines from mainstream journalists. But they have likely come to terms with the fact that Payday 3 won't be the driving force that finally moves the needle and drags Starbreeze shares out of the penny stock hell they've been existing in for the past couple of years. This is precisely why they can't forget to add the likes of updated Chains and Dallas to this sort of crossover, as a quiet reminder that the game hasn't been forgotten, and why one-sided collabs are a sad necessity in the current climate to bolster brand recognition and keep revenue ticking over whilst they work on that reputational turnaround. It's essentially impossible to know what's going to happen to the Payday franchise over the next couple of years. I have a newfound confidence that those at the helm understand the perilous situation it's been placed in, but have no idea how they're going to go about fixing said situation. What I will say is I predict some short-term pain. Paid updates that would once be included in free content, and more of these one-sided collaborations with little for Payday fans specifically to enjoy. But if this is all in aid of escaping at the other end with a healthier Payday, I can accept it. They've got a lot of clawing back to do after this directionless couple of years, and if rumours of high-level dismissals are to be believed, Starbreeze just might be taking it seriously this time. This is the part of the video that I want to open out to you guys though. Do you agree with my predictions for the coming years? How do you see these lopsided crossovers, net positive or negative? And most importantly, do you see a future for Payday 2, 3 and whatever comes next for the franchise? Thank you so much for watching. Please share your thoughts and disagreements down in the comments. This really is an open dialogue from my perspective that I'm desperate for input into. Take care, and I'll see you all very soon in the next video. A huge thank you to my dedicated Patreon backers. If you want to join this crew in going infamous, check out the link below and pledge as little as $2 to see your name in the credits, or get 24-hour early access to future videos and vote on upcoming content. Take care. I'll see you all soon.